If I had seen this before I started, would I have made this shawl? Probably not. There is a lot going on in it. Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen, and Do So Knits is my little corner of the internet where I share with you how knitting and other fiber crafts have woven into my life. Today is one of my standard podcast episodes where I'm going to share with you works in progress, finished objects, and other things that I have on my needles and things I might cast on here shortly. I like to do these little podcast episodes as kind of a little recap of what I've been working on and what I want to be working on, and it's just a good way for me to keep myself accountable of keeping my Ravelry project pages updated and kind of all of that project admin that kind of comes along with podcasting. So if you're new here, down in the description box I do have social links to all of my social media. I am Do So Knits here on YouTube, Instagram, Ravelry, and Blue Sky. And then additionally, I also have show notes linked down below with chapter codes so that you can jump around to hear about the different projects. And then on my Ravelry project pages, I do link to the different videos where I talk about a project. So if you ever wanted to go back and do a deep dive on a specific project, you can by visiting the Ravelry project pages or checking out those timestamps below. I really don't have too much other admin here at the beginning, so I think we can just go ahead and dive right on into my finished objects and what I'm wearing today. So the project that I'm wearing today was a finished object in my last episode. This is my High Tide shell, which I knit by Lindsay Fowler. I bought this yarn last year for my birthday and then have recently finished it. It has now just gotten very cold and wintry feeling here near Denver. We had our first snow yesterday. I think it was the latest snow we've had to begin a winter. It was November 29th was the first snow this year. And so now it's feeling a lot colder outside. It's got that chill in the air. So our walk with Sherlock yesterday was pretty cold, but this is something that I expect to get a lot of wear out of. It's just a vest. I'm wearing it over a long sleeve shirt. It's a worsted weight yarn. It's very comfortable. I really like how it looks, and I'm really happy with the colors and the fit I was able to achieve. So I'm excited that it's cooling down so that I can put this into my rotation a little bit more. If you don't know, that is Ebony. She loves to be around when I'm talking, especially to a camera. So that is what I am wearing, so I think we can just go ahead and move right into the finished objects I have to share with you today, and we'll just go ahead and dive right in. I hope you have something to work on, something to drink, and let's get started. Okay, so if you've been around for the last couple weeks, last month or so, you probably know what this next finished object is going to be. This is my Mystery MKAL, which was the Stephen West Mystery MKAL for this year. I started this in October and have finished it as of November. I was able to get it blocked, bound off, and finished. So this is what it looks like. So I knit this shawl with Fiber Hustle yarn in their fingering 4-ply, and it was a kit that I bought that had 4 different colors. So the 4 colors are as follows. I think it's easiest to see in this section. I did mention them last time. The chartreuse is like a golden kelp. The darkest blue is called the Abyss. This lighter blue is called Just a Spruce, and then this tealy green is called The Ring is Green. And so I have finally finished this shawl. The thing that I was working on last time was these brioche bands. So I did the 3 brioche bands as written in the pattern, but I did change the color order a smidge. I wanted the golden kelp to be a background color and not a front color during this ending section. because I just didn't want it to pop out too much. Throughout the whole shawl, I feel like my golden kelp was kind of like a pop, and so I wanted to keep that, and I didn't want it to be like a main color near the end. So this is the shawl in total. This was section 1, so clue 1 is where we started with these scallops. We then moved to these ripples for clue 2. Clue 3 was these diamonds and then this basket weave. And then clue 4 was the brioche bands all along the bottom. I did block it, laid it out on all my blocking mats. I'm pretty sure it grew a good smidge. I mean, it was already pretty long, and now it's definitely longer than my wingspan. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Again, as I mentioned, if I had seen this before I started, would I have made this shawl? Probably not. There is a lot going on in it, but it was something that the experience of knitting it and working on it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed working on like the scallops and then moving to like a more rhythmic, like the garter rows with the like little bits of like eyelets in between. And then the diamonds were a ton of fun to work on while I was at a conference. And then the brioche was probably the part that was like the biggest like push slog to get through. Like, was I enjoying the brioche? Yes, I enjoyed it, but the rows were very long. So if I was trying to like complete this before the end of the like knit along the last week, I probably would have been a little stressed out to like not be able to keep up. But because I kind of fell behind during clue 3, I feel like I didn't have a ton of that pressure, so I just kind of enjoyed working on the brioche. I just kind of focused on this project and really enjoyed how the colors and all the textures came together. I think it looks really stunning. As I've mentioned before, I think the Stephen West, like, I'm gonna wear this on days where it's really cold because it's massive, and days where like I need a pop of color because it is like a giant pop of color. I mean, I'm not gonna wear it with this vest, but it is also really nice to just kind of, I can throw it across my shoulders like this and just kind of like snuggle up in it even a little bit. I can kind of just like wear it in the house when it's a little chilly, kind of wear it like a shrug around my shoulders. Like, I kind of like it like that. Just feels like a little bit of a hug, and it was a lot of fun to work on. One other thing, the last thing that I did was for the bind off, I did opt to do just one color. It was written for either a 1 color or 2 color bind off. I decided to do 1 color, and that was mostly because I decided to use my cordsmith when I was doing the I-cord bind off. So the cordsmith is a little I-cord tool that you just kind of like throw your yarn over and pull it off in order to do the I-cord. So what I would do is I would just like pick up a stitch onto that I-cord maker so that I had 2 on the first prong, and then I was just able to keep going. It was just really fiddly with 2 colors, so I just decided to continue with 1, and I'm very happy with that. Plus the I-cord maker just made it really easy to do the I-cord. Stat wise, I started this October 3rd and finished it November 14th. So about 6 weeks, which is pretty good for a massive 4-skein fingering weight shawl. Overall, I used 366 grams of yarn, and I do have my leftover yarns in this little bag to kind of show you. This is how much of my golden kelp I had left. I definitely have the most of this, so I can tell it wasn't the most prominent color throughout my project, but I kind of wanted it to be a pop. I then have this much of my lighter blue, this much of my darker blue, And then this is the funny one. For my Just a Spruce, I literally have 1 gram left. This is it. And I think that's because I switched the order of the brioche at the end. So I wasn't supposed to use as much of this one, and I was supposed to use more of this golden kelp, but I wanted my 3 like greens and blues to be my main colors, and I had just enough. So I used that teal in the background of this and the foreground of that. So it was used in 2 of the brioche stripes at the end. But yeah, this is my MKAL for 2025. I love the colors. I think this kit that I picked from Fiber Hustle is stunning. It's amazing. It's super huge and drapey, and I'm glad I knit this. I'm glad I jumped on the MKAL train when it was, you know, taking off from the station. I just haven't done this in a few years and felt the urge this year to do it, and I'm happy I did. Because as I mentioned, if I'd seen it, I probably would have skipped it, because that's kind of how my previous years when I've not knit the MKAL as a part of the MKAL have gone. I just never come back to them. So I'm pretty excited. Enjoyed working on this and glad I did it. And it was just a fun project to keep me company during October and the early part of November. So yes, that's my mystery musicale. My next finished object is actually one I wasn't necessarily anticipating to have finished for today, but I am excited that it is done. So this is my Weekend Cami by Amy Sher. I started this in August and I bound it off last night. So I knit this with Nerd String fingering. Nerd String is now Salty Blonde Fiber, but it's the colorway Seaside. It's the 100% superwash merino color. It's a fingering weight merino yarn. And I finished this yesterday. So yesterday I went to a knitting group down in Colorado Springs. If you know Colorado Knitter, it's one that she hosts once a month. And so I went down with a friend yesterday and I brought this because I realized I was finally at the point to start the bottom I-cord. So I had taken this project when we went to see the newest Wicked movie. I brought it just because I was working on the stockinette in the round at the bottom of this. I worked on it during the movie and then came home and realized that I'd actually knit the body an inch longer than what was recommended in the pattern. And if you've been around for a little while, you know that I'm a short-waisted person, so I typically shorten bodies. So the fact that I had knit an extra inch was like, oh great, I may have to just like literally rip out the inch that I put on when I took it to the movie, and maybe I didn't even need to take it to the movie. But before I did that, what I decided to do is I threw it on a barber cord. I didn't rip back anything, I just threw it on a barber cord, blocked it, laid it flat to dry. I then was able to try it on, and actually the length was like really perfect. So I took this yesterday because I was ready to do the I-cord bind off. Now for this I-cord bind off, I did not use my cord smith. One, because I think the cord smith with fingering weight yarn can be a little bit loose. Also, this is a 4-stitch I-cord and the I-cord maker does a 3-stitch I-cord. So I just did it the old-fashioned way with my needles, but worked on this I-cord bind off at the knit group yesterday. I got about probably 60% done with the hem. So then that was basically what I worked on yesterday afternoon. While we were watching TV, I finished this bottom hem. You also pick up around the neckline, and you also pick up around the sleeves. And so it's officially done. I've woven in all the ends. It just needs that final wash and block. Now that I have added all these I-cords, I want to just get it soaking, get it washed, get it finally relaxed, and then I'll get some finished object photos. But overall, I'm really happy with this. I think the colorway is lovely. The fit looks perfect. It is like, I would not say that it's cropped, but it is like a good high hip kind of hit on the tank top, which I think is good as a layering piece. You also do a slight decreases when you're doing this I-cord bind off. You decrease every so many stitches when you do the I-cord, and I think that just brings it slightly in. It's like a slight balloon, but I think that'll be really nice as a layering piece. I think it fits really nicely. It's been a while since I talked about this pattern, but it does have vertical bust darts to accommodate just some increasing. And then it has optional horizontal bust darts in case you need to add extra room for breast tissue. And yeah, it then has A-line shaping, and I did an in-between a few sizes for that because I didn't want it to be too wide, and I'm happy with the amount that I ended up adding. And surprisingly, I think this yarn did not grow a ton. That was something that I was worried about with me adding an extra inch. And why I wanted to block it was because this is a superwash yarn. And superwash yarn has a tendency to stretch and grow. So that was why I threw it on a barber cord before I decided to do the bind off. Because in the case of if I washed this and then say it grew a lot lengthwise, I wanted to be able to easily rip back any inches that I needed to. But when I tried it on, I really didn't notice a ton of growth. So I'll be interested to see like if it grows with wearing, just in general. I know sometimes superwash can grow because of the weight, and this isn't super heavy, so maybe it's not going to grow a ton versus like a worsted weight sweater would. So maybe that is part of like the reason it didn't grow a ton. Overall, I knit this on a US 3 needle. I did a size D with 3 inches of bust darts, and then I increased to halfway between size D and E after I finished the bust darts. And all those kind of modifications of how many stitches I increased and how often I did my increases for that change is on my pattern page, and the total length that I knit is also on there. But yeah, I just need to do the final block. What is slightly, I don't want to say frustrating because it's not frustrating, but it's something I will have to keep in mind. This tank top weighs 180 grams. I had 3 skeins of this nerd string fingering in my stash. But when I weigh what I have left, so this used 180 grams. When I weigh the 2 skeins that I have left, I have 90 grams left here. So 90 plus 180 is 270 grams total. I had 300 to start, but this swatch was 10 more grams. So if you include these two together, 180 plus the 10 gram swatch, it's 190 grams. But I only have 90 left here, so there's another like 10 grams that, you know, that kind of just happens with probably the ends that I cut off, all that kind of stuff. So overall, I would say this used about 208 grams total, even though the final garment is 180 grams. When you include the swatch, it's 190, but I have some, you know, I only have 90 grams left, so it's not a full skein, but it's almost a full skein. So it's like, this is me rambling to be like, could I potentially knit this tank top with 2 fingering weight skeins of yarn? I think the answer is maybe. I think I'd be playing a little bit of yarn chicken. I did add an extra inch, but I kind of like the length. So it's that mix of like, if I cut off an extra inch, I probably could fit it in 2 skeins. Technically, I did this on under 2 skeins, but technically I used a little bit more. So that'll be determined in the future, I think. I think I could potentially squeeze it out of 2 skeins of yarn, but I almost need just that little bit more, like 210, in order to finish this. And that's just, you know, with the swatch and then the ends that you weave in, there's always a little bit of yarn that, you know, gets used. Because I had some, well, and I had swatched with this yarn before, so maybe that's where part of, maybe I really only needed 190 grams if you include this in the swatch. Maybe I could get it under 2 because I forgot that I had swatched with this before. So maybe I am good. Maybe I could do this in 2 skeins. Maybe that's an experiment for future Kristen, but sorry, that was a very long-winded way of me trying to figure out if I could do this in 2 skeins or not. But then I remembered I had swatched with this before. I'd swatched with this yarn with the mohair to see if I liked it. And I didn't. But I didn't rip out the swatch. So yes, this is my weekend cami. I'm very happy it's done. It is definitely a pattern that I will be making again. I'm excited that it is done just to have like a wool tank top. I love wearing tank tops underneath cardigans or even just when I'm around the house. I love to just have a tank top under my sweaters or under cardigans. It's just, I find them very comfortable, and working from home, I just enjoy wearing a tank top. I really like having a tank top or a long sleeve, so this will get wear even though it's winter time, I think, because I can wear it underneath cardigans or underneath other items. And I love this colorway. I really wanted something that would show off the speckling of this. So I'm very excited. I'm happy it's done. I definitely think I'll be making this again because it was a very fun pattern to knit. It's just once I got to the body and it was no longer like focus projects, I just kind of moved it to a project that I was working on during meetings, or really it was just kind of a project that I had for when I needed to stock a net. So I wasn't like rushing to finish it, but I am very happy it's done now. I also washed it in my Woolin & Co. Pumpkin Spice, and it smells so nice. But I'll be blocking it once more and then getting photos, but this is my weekend cami. My next finished object that I have to show you is actually a crochet project. And it's something that I actually cast on and finished after I did my MKAL. So I finished this, and I made this before my weekend cami was finished. After my MKAL, I was just feeling a little bit, you know, sometimes after you finish a big project, I just needed something. I just wanted something that was quick, something caught my eye to inspire me. And so I had a few just like, okay, I just want to cast on and bind some things off pretty quickly. So I went to my stash, grabbed some leftovers, and I made a couple of yarn cozies. These are the crochet ones. So this is the Yarn Cozy Light Crochet, which is by Nitty Natty. They are just little yarn holders that you can put your yarn in. I've really been enjoying these lately. I have a couple of, I think I have about 4 or 5 of the 100-gram ones, and I hadn't made any of the 50-gram ones. And recently I've been doing, for my socks, I've been splitting skeins in half into 50 grams, so I thought just having a few of these would be really nice to have. And like I said, I just wanted a really quick project. So I used the Woolens and Nosh Superwash Targhee in this. This was leftovers of my If Hibernating is Wrong, Then I Don't Want to Be Right colorway. It was one of my favorite colorways. I love the socks that I have out of these. So I just wanted to use up the rest, or use up some of the rest, to make yarn cozies. Overall, these two use 24 grams, and I use a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. The Woolens and Nosh base is a bit thicker than other sock yarns, so when I make these, I don't crochet them necessarily to the stitch count that Nitty Natty has in the pattern, because she has a like measure this distance and it should be this long. So basically I just crochet the center on the bottom until I hit that, and then I do the decreases based on whatever stitch count I have left. You do a decrease round, and then I just crochet to the length she mentions in the pattern. So essentially what I'm trying to say is I crochet to the measurements, not to the stitch counts. But they both matched. I wasn't like requiring that they match, but because I split my skein into two when I knit the socks, I had two skeins and they both started at the same point. So they do match, which is kind of cool. And yeah, these are just a quick, easy project, crochet cozies. I did also use my I-cord maker on the top of these. The only thing is that the crochet or the I-cord kind of rolls in, and I think that's because I was doing it from the right side. So I think if I did this again, and next time, when I do this next time, I'm going to do the I-cord from the wrong side instead of from the right side. Just try to get it to roll the other way. Because right now the I-cord just like rolls in, which I think will be, it's not going to be like the end of the world. I just think having it roll to the outside might be nice. Although maybe it rolling to the inside is kind of good, that it's just like a slightly smaller opening to kind of keep your yarn together. So yeah, that was my first quickie project. I then didn't want to make more of these, but I had an idea in my head. I had done some scrolling for just some washcloths. I had mentioned when I had finished a couple of tops recently, I had some leftover Cotton, which is a cotton and linen blend yarn, and then I was going to, you know, make washcloths out of them. Washcloths or dishcloths. So I had done some scrolling on Ravelry in order to maybe find a new pattern for a crochet dishcloth, and I had found one using the linen stitch. I don't exactly remember the name right now, the pattern, but it was a free pattern. I'll have it on the screen. But it had this really cool like striping. So I crocheted this. This is all Dishy from Knit Picks, so this was some leftover honeydew that I had, and then I think this is spruce. I do have it on my project page, but I just kind of crocheted this up in an evening. I wanted to try out the linen stitch to see how I liked it as a dishcloth or a washcloth, and it was fun to crochet. However, I do like when my washcloths or dishcloths don't have too much stretch to them, and watch this. There is so much stretch. You can see it with the white behind. There's so much stretch in this. It kind of almost looks like mesh once it's stretched out. Because the thing is once cotton gets wet, it's going to stretch. So I don't want there to be too much stretch in the washcloth. So I don't think this is a pattern that's going to stay in my rotation, even though I really love the linen stitch. I just want a washcloth with a little more structure to it. It's funny because when you stretch it this way, it definitely pops back. But I know the cotton, once it gets wet, all my washcloths love to stretch. They all want to, so I just don't like wholly dishcloths or washcloths. I want them to be pretty tight and together, so I'm not gonna rip this out. I did debate on it because I do tend to just like, if I don't like something, I will rip it out, especially because this only took an evening. But I'll probably leave it. I mean, it's fine. But I think I'm gonna stick with I have a corner to corner single crochet through the back loop washcloth that I really like to do, or a knitted one. So I think those are kind of the ones that have hit the marks. I just have these for when I want to do something quick or fun, so not time wasted, but nice to try a new pattern. Not for me to do again, but I do like the stripes. I thought the stripes were a cool way to like use up some leftovers. And you can tell I've not woven in the ends yet. I will do that. So yeah, just a quick washcloth that I also added into my little queue of I need something quick. And those are all of my finished objects since I last recorded. So a few small things and then finishing up a few things that have been on my needles for a little bit, but I still have quite a few things on my needles. So we'll just go ahead and move right into what I have going right now. So the first work in progress I'd like to show you are my Earthenware Socks, which is just a pair of vanilla socks that I am knitting for Shane's grandmother. I have finished the first sock, however it is in the car because I took these socks recently when we went to go see the new Now You See Me movie, which was a fun time. But I started these socks, well, on the way there, I was finishing the toe on the first sock. So I finished the toe, it's on magic loop, and then I immediately cast on the drive this second sock. So I cast on the cuff in the car and then worked on the cuff and then the sock during the movie. So this was all I was able to get done during that movie. This is Life in the Long Grass, their twist sock base, which is an 80% superwash and 20% nylon. The colorway is Earthenware. And I'm knitting these for Shane's grandmother. I did cast on 60 stitches at the cuff in a 2x1 ribbing, and then I decreased down to 58 for the leg just because I wanted it just a little bit snugger. And yeah, so I have just more sock knitting to do on this. It's kind of just my project that I have on the go for meetings or when we're riding around. Not a ton to report. Doing a shadow rep peel on them, 2x1 for the cuff, and yeah, I finished the first sock. It's just in the car. And then here is the second sock. So that's my first work in progress. Not a ton to explore with that one. It's just my sock that is on the needles to keep me busy when I need something simple. My next work in progress is one that I've been working on for a little bit. This is my Jaunty shawl by Andrea Mallory. And I am almost halfway on this. So I am knitting my Jaunty with some hand spun that I got from Apothecary Fabrications. The colorway is For the Fur, and this is my Jaunty so far. All the color is cool. So I'm almost halfway, and it's not super long right now, but I have 2 of these skeins that I spun, and so I have about 20 grams left in this right now. So once this gets down to 10 grams, I'm then going to start my decreases. So I'm curious to see how much farther these 10 grams are going to get me in like length. But I mean, I think it will stretch. I have really enjoyed working on this pattern. It's just fun to work on. I do think as I've grown with this, like I can tell that this is hand spun, but I do think, you know, the pattern really hides some of those imperfections, and I think it just looks cool. Like we just get this striping effect that looks pretty neat. So I'm curious to see how much farther I can go. I've kind of stalled out a little bit because I want to work on this when I'm home and can actively like have this beside me, and I can weigh this every time I finish a repeat, because you're supposed to start the decreases after you do a complete repeat. And I did want to share, I am using this twice sheared sheep even stitch counter in order to count my rows. So it has a 2, 4, 6, 8, and a 0. So I can just, every time I'm on the right side, I can switch this to the next number. And then when I get to the 8, I know that I need to do the increase. And I'll just be using that through the whole project. I've really been enjoying this. I think I will definitely make more. I mean, my Sophie shawl which is a similar shape to this, is one of my most worn scarves. It's the easiest thing to throw on in the winter because it wraps really nicely, so I'm hoping this can kind of do the same thing. And then I'm hoping I'll make another one when I finish spinning some fiber for another one, which I showed last time. And I won't be showing today because I've not done any spinning, but that is the goal for my next spin, is to make another one of these. But it's just a half fisherman's rib shawl with some increases, so it's very easy to work on, and I'm enjoying it. One thing I've noticed is I think my color repeats in this are really short, so I would like my color repeats in some of my spinning to be a little bit longer. And I know I mentioned in my spinning last time that I was thinking of potentially making some of the repeats shorter, but now I'm kind of wondering, do I actually do that, or do I kind of just keep the repeats where they're at to see how they'll play? If they are a little bit longer, is it a look and design that I like a little bit more than like this one? Because I think in this one I broke up, let's see how good my spinning notes are. Oh, Kristen, great. I split these into groups of, I had split it into a group of 9 and a group of 12. But then I was gonna do a 3-ply, decided to do a 2-ply. So I split into groups of 4, 9, and 12, and then I ended up incorporating the 4s into the 9 and 12. So I think my color split was gonna be they're pretty small. Maybe I won't split this is me thinking out loud, which maybe you want to be a part of or not, but I think I might not split my current project smaller. Anyway, this is my Jaunty. I'm really enjoying the process so far, and yeah, hopefully next time I'll be on my decreases. My next work in progress is a new garment that I've cast on. And it's my only garment on the needles now since I finished my weekend cami. That's pretty cool. So this is my So Basic DK by Maxim Cyr. It is a raglan DK weight sweater that I am knitting for my husband Shane. And last time I showed you the swatch for it. And so I've decided to knit this on US 4s because I liked that gauge just a little bit more than the US 5s. And it was a little closer row gauge than the US 5s to the pattern. And this is where I'm at. It's gonna look a little funky, but here I am. Ta-da! So this is a raglan sweater. I am still on the raglan increases, but it is just a raglan sweater, and then it has this detail down the sleeves of kind of like a long rib. So I've cast on after the collar. The pattern recommends that you cast on at the collar and then knit down and then start your short rows, but I always cast on for the stitch count after the collar, and then I will go back, pick up, and add the collar on, just because I like having a little extra control on how long to make the collar, or if I need to decrease a few stitches to make it a little bit tighter. So that is something I always do. And yeah, to be honest, there's not a ton to talk about here other than it's a raglan sweater. I did have to restart this. I cast on, had done the short rows, and then was checking my stitch counts and realized that like my front number of stitches had more than what was recommended, and then the back section had less. So when I initially was placing my stitch markers, I must have placed them in the wrong spot because I didn't double check after I placed them. So I did have to rip out and restart. So that is a tip, to make sure that you check when you place your stitch markers that you have the right number of stitches. And then really the only other thing that is kind of like a helpful tip, it's not even really a modification, but with my stitch markers, the ones that are at the sleeves, I have slightly different stitch markers. So I have like this 2, and that's to tell me that I'm at a raglan or a sleeve, and to remind me to do this ribbing detail. The ones that are for like the front and back just have one, but the ones with two are for sleeves. So that's really just like my only thing that's kind of like a tip. I have done a few times where I like mess up or I'm not actively paying attention, and then I, you know, do the sleeve and I don't do the purl stitches, so then I have to undo it and redo it. I might put a slightly different stitch marker here, just something that's completely different from like this lightning bulb ones. This is just all I had when I was starting this, so I think I actually might switch those to something a little more distinct, so that when I do get to them, like I actually notice that it's not just like the same feeling as like the other ones. But yeah, otherwise following the pattern as written. I am doing the size 48 and I'm using US 4s and I'm on the raglan increases. I'll be very happy when I feel like every time I knit a raglan, getting through the raglan increases is a little bit of a long process, but once you split, it's then going to be smooth sailing. It's just going to be stockinette in the round. Ideally, I would like to have this done. Oh, there's no way. I was going to say for Christmas. Tomorrow's December 1st. Maybe if I really focus on this, I could get it done, but I don't know. The yarn I'm using is Les Garçons British DK in the colorway Vincent's Highland Coup. This is my first skein. I have caked up my second skein, and it's in a yarn cozy, so this is kind of what the yarn cozies look like with yarn. This one's a little short, but I think that'll be fine. I knit it to the pattern, or crocheted it to the pattern. But it is a DK weight skein of yarn, so we shall see. This yarn base is 70% BFL and 30% Masham. And that's the logo. Very pretty. It's been fun to knit with. Yeah, so just a raglan sweater. I'm working on it. I try to knit one sweater a year for Shane. So you can tell I'm getting a little close to my deadline. Although for my last one, I might have finished it in January. So maybe, I don't know. I just try to do about one a year. It's kind of my goal. So then my next work in progress was a little bit of a spur of the moment cast on, but kind of not really. I've been wanting a hat. And so there was a Sorry Nordland pattern that I had bought this yarn for to make. But then when I looked at it, when I was about to cast this on, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I was watching Any Knits, and they showed this hat pattern. This is the Ottilie Hat by Gudrun Fessel. Any Knits had seen this in a yarn store in, I think they said Germany. There's only 11 project pages on this in Ravelry, but the hat looks so cool, so I ended up casting it on, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm still on the ribbing, but I am using my Lucky Tweed by Kelborn Woolens in the colorway Cream. The rib is knit with a fisherman's rib, so I'm really in a fisherman's rib kind of mood with the Jaunty shawl and now this. But it does this fisherman's rib for the ribbing, and then it will switch to this like brioche tuck stitch texture kind of pattern for the top. I think it looked really cool, and I think it'll just be like a really nice classic looking hat when I'm done. So this is as far as I've gotten. And yeah, you do have an option in the pattern where you can either have this as your outside ribbing or this as your outside ribbing. I have not decided which side of the ribbing I like more, so let me know if you have a preference. I think what's interesting about this Lucky Tweed is it's not like a super consistent yarn. There's definitely, it's almost like a hand spun kind of feel. There's thick and thin spots. It's because it's a woolen spun. So it's not 100% consistent. So I think that's why when you look at this ribbing, Like, it's not like the prettiest ribbing in the world, like, because the yarn isn't super consistent. I think it has character, but I can't decide. I think I like this side more versus this side. I think this side shows a little bit more of the imperfections of the yarn, just the change of texture, and I think this side just looks a little cleaner. So I think this might be my outside. But let me know what you think. I'm really enjoying this so far because it's just alternating rows of normal knit purl, and then it has a row of the like tuck stitch, and then I'm excited to get into the top part. The texture looks really cool and the fit looks really nice. It looks like it's like a slight point but a little slouchy, and I think just a white hat will be good to have. I don't have a white hat, and I am using my Knit Picks Majestic, which is a square shorty needle. These are what I always use for my hats. So I just wanted to do a little bit of accessories as we move into some of the colder weather. I do have some sweaters that I want to make. I was looking up there because I'm kind of using my shelf up there to pull out yarns that I might want to use within a season. Let me see if I can show it. Yeah. So those right there. So I pulled some of my yarns out today for, I have my DK, the sweater for Shane up there, but I also, I'm kind of leaning toward I might want to make a Lanark, which again is another fisherman's rib project, but I have some brown yarn that I think in a like half zip fisherman's rib sweater would be really cool. And then I pulled out some sock skeins that I think are fun for the winter holidays ahead. Lots of like blues and sparkles and greens type of colors. So I just wanted to switch it up a little bit. I used to have all my handspun up there, but I thought having something there, it's like, oh, these are things that I might want to cast on soon. Having them in my vision might be a little bit of inspiration for me. With that, I do want to talk a little bit about my stash stats, and then I have one more project that I'm working on, but it's not knitting. It's a Sashiko hand embroidery project. So we'll stay with the yarn, and then I'll show you that at the end. So just because it's the end of November, I like to share my changes in my stash. So for November, I got 1 skein of yarn in, and I don't know if I showed this last time, so I'm just going to show it now, but it was my Woolens and Nosh Advent. I am doing this for December. It's a self-striping sock yarn. So we have the mini skein, and then you have 2 caked up skeins on the inside to do some self-striping socks in December. So this was the only yarn that I brought in November, versus I got 8 skeins of yarn out, and that was with the MKAL, and then the MKAL, the dishcloth, there are a couple things that got that out. So my stash change for November was a -7 skeins, and my goal for this year is to use more than what I bring in. Gram wise, I got about 500 grams of skein out. It was about 130 grams in, 626 grams out, so a -500 grams. Year to date, that brings me to, I've brought in 75 skeins of yarn versus getting out 108 skeins of yarn between destash and knitting, and so I'm at a -23 skeins for the year, and that is a -1670 in grams, so 1,670. So I think that's exciting. I'm on track for the year. We have 1 month left, and I don't have plans of like buying anything crazy, I don't think. So yeah, I'm excited to start these in December. It kind of moves into some of my future projects, but this I will definitely be working on during December. I have not decided if I'm doing like, I'm not doing like a daily Vlogmas. Maybe I'll do a few vlogs in December. I haven't officially decided what I want to do. I know a lot of people do vlogging in December, and I have in the past, but It's usually a really busy time of year, so it's kind of hard to like vlog consistently, but we'll see. Maybe I'll try to throw a few vlogs in. Let me know what you think. So that is my one skein that I brought in. And then I just wanted to show you a little bit of progress that I have done on my Sashiko. So I picked up this kit when I went to Arizona in October. I got it from Tempeh Yarn and Fiber. And it is a Sashiko kit called Holy Night, and it's by QH Textiles. I did check the yarn store and I didn't see this on their website, but I do have the pattern and the thread. I'm going to share that here, and I was able to Google and find both of those. So if you do want to be able to make this, you should be able to like Google either the pattern and then the thread to find it. So the name of the pattern is Sashiko, or it's Holy Cloth. It is a Sashiko cloth called Holy Night by QH Textiles. And so I was able to Google Holy Night Sashiko, and I was able to find a few stores that had it. And then the thread that I am using is this Hidamari Sashiko. I was able to Google this and I found it in a few spots. I think Brooklyn General had it, but this is the colorway 401. It's like a red variegated color. When I got this from Tempeh Yarn and Fiber, all of this, the kit and the thread and the needle all came together as a kit. I just didn't see it on their website. But I started working on this because I thought it would be a fun December winter project. And I've loved this. Kind of can't see a ton. This is the cloth, but I've stitched the outside border and then a few of the snowflakes. So that's one snowflake, this is the border, and then I'm working on this snowflake. I've also worked on, I started down here and then I ended up going around and then kind of popped over here. This has been a lot of fun. It's my first Sashiko that I've done, and Sashiko is essentially just like a running stitch. So you are supposed to like stitch as long as possible and then pull your thread through. Sashiko is also, it's 100% cotton. You don't split the like plies of this like you do with embroidery. So it's just one thick stitch. But I think this is like really pretty. It's really simple. Backstitch is like my favorite part of like embroidery and cross stitch. So, I mean, that's basically what Sashiko is. So overall, you can see the little bit that I've done on this. It's a good size cloth. I do have a little bit of puckering. I don't know if you'll be able to see it like on this snowflake. So I did do some reading. I think I was just pulling some of the stitches in the back a little too tightly, but it also said, you know, a little bit of puckering is kind of normal and kind of a part of the aesthetic of Sashiko. But I think what I really fell in love with is how this thread changes colors. So you can see it's like light to dark to light. And I just really like this because it feels like it uses a different part of my brain. It just feels really meditative. You don't have to like think a ton. You just have to follow the lines. And so even if I don't follow things 100%, all of the ink on here is water soluble. So just once I'm done, I'll just give it a soak. All the stitching lines will disappear. Because you can see like on this one, maybe you might not be able to see, but on this one I didn't follow the stitching exactly. But once I erase the background, it won't matter. So I just wanted to share this. I'm really enjoying it. When I Googled it, there are a couple different colors of this cloth. They have a green one, a red background, or they have this cotton kind of color. And then I just really love this color changing thread. Red isn't necessarily my like go-to, but I do just like it in this. I did debate, there's like a blue variegated color and I thought about buying it, but I fell in love with this red, and I think it's just, it feels like holidays to me. So I'm going to keep it. Yeah, so that is my Sashiko cloth Holy Night by QH Textiles. And overall, that's everything I've been working on. So like I said, I'm not sure if I will be vlogging in December. Maybe I will. I will definitely be doing another podcast, so you can look forward to one of those. Otherwise, let me know, what are you working on for this winter season ahead if you're in this hemisphere. I know some of you are moving into winter if you're in the southern hemisphere, but I'm excited that winter is here. I like the cold weather. I like the snow, so I find that very exciting. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it and hoping to get a few accessories, and then, you know, I kind of have a few garments that I want to work on, but I kind of am at a point right now where these smaller projects are bringing me a lot of joy. So I think I'm going to stick with that for a little bit. I'm going to work on this raglan sweater for Shane, and I'm just going to go where the inspiration strikes. I have a few garments that are like in my head that I want to make, but also another part of me doesn't want to start like a giant project right now. So just really enjoying like my hats and my socks and this Sashiko cloth. So I'm just going to keep working on it for now. And yeah, let me know what you're working on. Really appreciate you spending time with me. Your time is valuable, so the fact that you decided to spend it in this little corner of the internet today, I greatly appreciate you. Please like and subscribe and share this video if you have other people you think that would enjoy it. And subscribing is a free way to help support the channel, and so we can find other knitters that have similar interests. So with all of that, happy December ahead. Thank you for spending time with me, and I will see you in a few weeks for another podcast episode.